FID at one point. Robin Sykes, who is an attorney at law, also headed the FID. And I gather Pamela Folks is a chartered accountant. And there's also Ordina Tucker, the man who acted up to recently as head of the FID. And Mr. Ordina is, I gather, an ICT specialist. So there are 5 persons, no fewer than 5 persons, who would have headed at some point or another the Financial Investigations Division. Now, before I come back to some other observations in relation to this matter, I want to come back to casting my mind on this past Monday. I am from a tradition in terms of upbringing, listeners, where I was taught that the only time you look down on a person is when you are picking them up or helping them up. That's the tradition from whence I spring. That's how my parents raised me, how they taught me. Never look down on anyone. The only time you essentially find yourself in a position to be looking down on someone is if you're helping them up. Like many Jamaicans, particularly because I was part of a press conference on Monday, I tuned into the television Jamaica, the TVJ news, with keen interest on Monday. I wanted to see how TVJ was reporting the JLP's press conference, like I said, at which I participated, and I wanted to see how they were covering or how they covered the PNP's protest. There is a key takeaway from the TVJ news reportage of Monday evening. Indeed, there's a video that has now gone viral. Politically, that video, which underscores the ignorance of some persons, some of the PNP supporters, provides fodder to the PNP's opponents, us in the JLP. But I start where I started this morning, because although the video provides considerable fodder and material in the politicking, having regard to my own philosophy, my own commitment to education, my vision for the people of Jamaica insofar as education and training, the rank ignorance that was exhibited by those PNP supporters who were interviewed by Kalisha Williams of TVJ causes my heart to sink. I'm not particularly fond of it. Not particularly fond. Like I said, I understand and appreciate that it will be considerable fodder politically. But when we step back for a moment and consider what it truly speaks to, that video is speaking to certain deficits in the education and training of our people. It is speaking to rank ignorance. When a set of persons attend upon a protest that they don't even know, understand, or appreciate what they are protesting about, it is most unfortunate, because what it is betraying, what it is suggesting, is that the political leadership itself is wanting. And as a country, generally, we have not been doing justice by our people sufficiently. Yeah? And that is what I wish to put into sharp focus where that is concerned. There are some deficits And that is why we have to continue with missionary zeal and with fixity of purpose in educating and training our people. That is why I'm delighted with what the government is doing as it relates to the Heart NSTA Trust, making skills training more readily accessible to the most vulnerable among us. I appreciate what the government is doing in relation to the Students' Loan Bureau as well. And of course, the Bruce Golding government had removed mandatory fees at schools. Yeah? So they abolished cost sharing essentially. They made tuition free at schools, effectively doing away with mandatory parent contributions. These things are very important in helping Jamaica to remedy the deficit that those persons interviewed by Kalisha Williams on Monday exhibited. I want my producer to play for me that first video, the first video that I sent, because I want you, the listeners, to understand how members and surrogates in the politics, how they view our people, and why we should leave no stone unturned in helping our people as best as we can to upskill themselves and better themselves so that they are free of exploitation. I want you to listen to this gentleman. He is Said Bernard. Apparently he was speaking at an event, yes, where they are seeking to determine how best to bring out people for political organization purposes so that they can campaign to them and pitch to them and so on. Listen to this clip.
I've said this before and I'll say it again. We go to the people. We'll find a way in every nook and cranny and we'll go to them for their votes. We will buy the votes if we need to buy it. I believe you'll go in the constituency, play some music, boil some soup or some curry goat or something, and use that and get the people them to come. And when them come now, you hold them with the food, with the KFC or whatever, right? Yeah, because that is how you get to engage.
1 second, sorry. Because we could do that. How many meetings there?
We had about 40.
40 meetings. You would have the same result, even if you gave them KFC. Sorry, how are you get this? Even if you give them KFC.
That voice was the despicable utterance of Patricia Duncan Sutherland, seeking to unseat our venerable and dynamic finance minister, our Chancellor of the Exchequer, Favour Williams, here in St. Andrew Eastern, the very location from whence this broadcast is coming. Said Bernard, among other things, said go to the people based on this video here, albeit an edited video. Go to the people, buy their votes if you need to. Said Bernard is also on tape, based on what was played a while ago. Play some music, hold them with the food. And you heard Patricia Duncan Sutherland talking about KFC. So just before I play the video from Kalisha Williams of TVJ, I want you to hear Said Bernard again in his own voice, although the audio not coming through so pristine. And I want you to hear Patricia Duncan Sutherland, who the people of St. Andrew Eastern should reject in very emphatic terms in the weeks ahead. Press play.
I've said this before and I'll say it again. We go to the people. We'll find a way in every nook and cranny and we'll go to them for their votes. We will buy the votes if we need to buy it. I believe you'll go in the constituency, play some music, boil some soup or some curry goat or something, and use that and get the people them to come. And when them come now, you hold them with the food, with the KFC or whatever, right? Yeah, because that is how you get to engage.
1 second, sorry. Because we could do that. How many meetings there?
We had about 40.
40 meetings. You would have the same result, even if you gave them KFC. Sorry, how are you get this? Even if you give them KFC.
Yeah, KFC settings. And when you listen to how members of the political class, people who are seeking to gain the support of members of the public, yeah, how they view the people and think of the people, you will understand why they would have mobilized people on Monday, and before even seeking to practice a politics of educating people and uplifting people, what they seek to do, as we heard from the PNP's embattled General Secretary a few weeks ago, when he told comrades, invited them, that when people go low, they must go lower. That's the kind of tutelage they provide to their supporters. Yes? So they would have rounded up some people, just give them a placard Monday morning, say, just hold up this. Yeah? I gather that there was a member of the press who went there Monday. The member of the press was asking for someone in leadership in the PNP. And they were told to just hold up this. They were, say a placard there, hold up this. And that was a member of the press who some PNP organizer was issuing a placard to. I gather that was a member of the Nationwide News Network newsroom. Anyway, we're going to hear now that calamitous, disturbing, but yet very, very instructive. As I said before, I don't take particular delight because these persons are my Jamaican brothers and sisters, though they wear an orange shirt. In fact, I sit behind this microphone. I do what I do here and elsewhere to impart, better inform our people, educate our people, and point them to opportunities. I said it on the program last week. There's a gentleman who calls in from somewhere in the Grand Spend area. Him juggling ground provision. And I said on the program last week that there are other persons, instead of pointing him and people like him to opportunities that are available to them to better themselves and their families, what they do is have them just subsisting and persisting in a lumpen state, just eking out an existence as members of the lumpen proletariat. In other words, people on the margins. Here are my Jamaican brothers and sisters being thoroughly embarrassed and thoroughly embarrassing themselves, quite frankly, on Monday by way of this Kalisha Williams news report from the TVJ newsroom.
The protesters seemed confused about what exactly the protest was about and the functions of the FID.
You have a placard saying Dennis Chung and the FID. What do you know about the FID?
Well, I don't know but I'm here for a change.
He cannot lead the FID. He doesn't have the qualifications to lead the FID.
Why I said that? What do you understand about the agency itself?
I don't understand about the agency, but all I know is that the man only can account.
I know it was an organization that was formed to politicians to declare the assets true. Chung don't support it.
That's the Integrity Commission though, not the FID. You just mentioned
6 hours after. I'm not sure. But that is it.
Why Chung must go?
Because he's not qualified.
Why do you say the agency is corrupt?
No, they don't investigate no crime. They're investigating corruption.
That aside, the PNP.
You heard that yourself. They're not investigating no crime, they're investigating corruption. Another lady, when she just couldn't bother, she threw in the towel. The lady said 6 hours and a half dozen of the other. And of course, the first lady, her frank and brutal honesty. The lady didn't even fake it. I pity her, but I would hope that she's listening to a broadcast like this morning. Because from time to time I get callers to this program who I detect as PNP supporters. And in engaging them, I try to better inform them because I know that they do not necessarily get that elsewhere. Indeed, they do not get that where they are based. Because these people, are, especially the first lady, when she said she don't know, she was very frank and honest, and she said she just want change. She doesn't even understand and appreciate, listeners, that the money in her pocket is a bit better off now than if Omar Davies was finance minister. The same Omar Davies who had the temerity to draw himself out of wherever to stand in the vicinity of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the very location where he did so much destruction over the years. Omar Davies attended upon that protest. The money in that lady's pocket, her wealth is preserved in a sense because inflation has been low to moderate. Yeah? Her wealth has been preserved in a sense because minimum wage has been increased and there have been 8 successive years of no new taxes. I'm going to run to the break and pick up with more of this commentary on the other side. Stay with TVJ News Report from the PNP's protest action on Monday. It is in many respects comedic. So there's the funny side of it. But when you step back for a moment, it is both funny and very, very disturbing. Yeah? Very, very serious, all at the same time. I'm going to play it again for you. Want you to hear what these die-hard supporters of the PNP, yeah? The very people, many of them, the policies and the performance of this government, including on the job creation front, including on the provision of water front, including the reduction of JUTC fares, the increase in the minimum wage, the provision of a social pension, the increase in NIS pensions, the abolition of training for hard programs. These people who are going to be talking in a bit in terms of the order played, they have children, and I would imagine that some of their children go to programs at heart. Yeah? So these people are beneficiaries, direct beneficiaries in my view, of many of the achievements and the game-changing things that this government has brought to the fore. But yet here they are, exhibiting a degree of ignorance that, quite frankly, I find disturbing, notwithstanding the political fodder that it will provide for the JLP with which I'm associated. Hear my Jamaican brothers and sisters again in their own voices. 6 or 1/2 dozen of the other. Press play.
The protesters seemed confused about what exactly the protest was about and the functions of the FID.
You have a placard saying Dennis Chung and the FID. What do you know about the FID?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what about that. But you know, I'm here for a change.
He cannot lead the FID. He doesn't have the qualifications to lead the FID.
Why is it that? What do you understand about the agency itself?
I don't understand about the agency, but all I know is that the man only can account.
And no, it was an organization that was formed to politicians to declare their assets true. Chung don't support it.
You sure that's the Integrity Commission though, not the FID. You just mentioned
6 or 1/2 dozen. I'm not sure, but that is it.
Why Chung must?
Because he's not qualified.
Why do you say the agency is corrupt?
No, they don't investigate no crime. They investigating corruption.
That aside, the PNP.
So are we to understand that investigating corruption is a bad thing? The man said they're not investigating no crime, they're only investigating corruption. First of all, sir, corruption is a crime, and the truth of the matter is that investigating corruption is a good thing, and financial crimes are to be, denounced in this country and militated against. So that is a good thing to be investigating corruption. And you heard it in the man's own voice. The man said, I don't understand about the agency, but the man only can accounts. I don't know what that is. Perhaps he would have to better describe it for us. But he was very frank. He was very unvarnished. The gentleman said, when asked if he know about, what the FID entails, what is it about? The man said, I don't understand about the agency. But the man, Dennis Chung that is, only can accounts. I wonder if I can accounts. Opening stock, less return inwards, plus purchases equal cost of goods sold. That's all. Probably I can still accounts. we have some work to do. The Education Minister has identified some 50-odd schools that are deemed to be performing below the desired levels, and some special intervention is coming for them this September, not least even in relation to nutrition support, because we know the nexus between nutrition and educational outcomes. We have some deficits among our people. For some people, it's gone bad already, and they're not even going to be availing themselves of opportunities to, you know, be more informed and access lifelong learning and so on. Yeah? So for some people, it may have gone bad, but it must be our resolve. As a parliamentarian, I am making it my resolve for generations of Jamaicans to come to be better off than the people who have heard in this bit of audio. I don't want any reporter to expose the ignorance of any member of the Jamaican public, whether they are a PNP supporter or a JLP supporter. I would prefer for that to not be the case. People must believe in them party and choose them side, yes, but they mustn't do so, and I don't want them to be doing so within a context of considerable and egregious deficits. Yeah? Quite frankly, many who sit on the fence and are intent on sitting on the fence and will not participate in the electoral process by way of voting, they are doing Jamaica and themselves a disservice, because they are leaving the decision making in the country, the future of the country, the direction of the country, into the hands of many who don't even know perhaps what day of the week it is. It is unfortunate, and I'm urging those more educated people to do better as it relates to, yeah, participating in the political process. You cannot leave the fortunes of the country into the hands of people who quite frankly don't know better. The lady says she don't know anything about it. She just want a change. In other words, she come from wherever and she knows say orange her thing there. And I just that she depend. The orange people them call her out for come out one place, come stand up and hold up a placard and make up an eyes, and that she do. That's the thing that she is straight. So our job, in addition to trying to inform people like those, is to ensure that the successive generations of Jamaicans, the pitting them with their primary school now, the pitting them with their high school now, the youth and youth them in the community who need to go access and sign up for skills training or some other educational opportunity, we need to ensure say we can make it more effective, more readily accessible, and easier for them so to do. I come back to the substantive point. Dennis Chung's appointment. The narrative is being peddled that somehow Dennis Chung is unqualified as he lacks law enforcement background. The suggestion essentially is that with Dennis Chung being minted as the chief technical director at FID, that somehow the effectiveness and the strength of the organization has been eroded and is being eroded and will be eroded. And I'm saying to any person who is of that view and peddles that narrative that it is in fact not so. Yes? The FID is a division of the Ministry of Finance. It has a mandate. Yeah? It has a structure. In addition to its executive office, which has overall superintendence of the day-to-day activities and operations of the entity, the FID has several units. Its key units are the Financial Investigations Team, FIT, the Financial Intelligence Unit, FIU, the Legal Services Unit, the Information Technology Unit, the Planning and Administrative Services Unit, and of course, the Asset Management Unit. So the FID is structurally sound. and it does its work in relation to the investigation and the detecting of financial crimes. Now, the FID produces annual reports. I'm looking here, listeners, at the FID's 2017-2018 annual report, because there are those persons who are peddling a narrative that suggests that because Dennis Chung is divest of specific law enforcement background, yeah, the FID will be weakened. And it is not so, because the FID is supported by a number of technically skilled and proficient persons and units. So the chief technical director has technical skill sets in relation to accounting and of course in relation to public administration, and can ably and proficiently discharge the duties of the office of chief technical director. But I just enumerated for you the number of other units that serve the FID, and I will zero in on one of the units here right now, that being the Financial Investigations Team. In the FID's 2017-2018 annual report, page 18, which sets out, let me just double check, this is page 20 rather, which sets out information regarding the Financial Investigations Team, reads as follows. The Financial Investigations Team, FIT, is the investigations and enforcement arm of the Financial Investigations Division. Its primary purpose is to detect, deter, investigate, and support the prosecution of individuals and criminal networks involved in financial crimes. This is achieved through the utilization of both criminal and civil investigative powers pursuant to the Proceeds of Crime Act, the Financial Investigations Division Act, and the Terrorism Prevention Act. There are 5 broad categories of investigations pursued by FIT, namely: 1. Financial crimes, including money laundering and other criminal offenses under the Proceeds of Crime Act. 2. Cash seizure. 3. Criminal forfeiture. 4. Civil recovery of property. And 5. Terrorist financing. The annual report goes on to read here, listeners. FIT, which is the Financial Investigations Team, is staffed by highly trained and experienced forensic examiners and police officers who are authorized officers or authorized financial investigators pursuant to the Financial Investigations Division Act, FIDA, the Proceeds of Crime Act. Both police officers and civilians work alongside each other as a team, thus maximizing the effectiveness of the division's investigative efforts. Jamaica Constabulary Force officers are assigned to the FID under special arrangements with the Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Branch, which is basically CTOC. It says here, FIT receives cases from a variety of sources to include JCF formations, and JCF formations basically speaks to different elements within the JCF. For example, the Marine Police, narcotics, you know, the various elements in the JCF. Police formations is referred to as. They also receive serving as sources also are government ministries, departments and agencies, as well as overseas law enforcement agencies. In addition, cases developed within the FID itself. It goes on to say here, listeners, a strategic decision was taken to reduce the number of smaller cases referrals and place greater focus on complex high-value financial crimes. This is what is being said, you know, in the 17-18 annual report. So the annual report for 2017-2018 says that a strategic decision was taken to reduce the number of smaller cases referrals and place greater focus on complex, high-value financial crimes. It goes on to say, FID, through liaison officers, continues to provide technical support to JCF formations for investigating cases. And it says a total of 69 cases were referred to its financial investigations team and developed for investigation as detailed in the table below. And they provide a table with a breakdown of the 69 such referrals. So, contrary to what people like Peter Bunting is suggesting, the FID is staffed and resourced by persons who undertake the day-to-day investigative work with their considerable proficiency, and expertise. But what is very clear, what is very apparent, is that the PNP is taking issue with Dennis Chung for politically contrived reasons. It may be a situation where they don't feel that they can direct and control him, because Dennis Chung, this same Dennis Chung, was employed to DB&G and helped those gentlemen, Mark Golding and Peter Bunting, to make money. The same Dennis Chung they're tearing down today. He would have helped them to make money. And they are lambasting him and describing him as a mere accountant, as part of Mark Golding's general approach and strategy to diminish people. I gather there's a call on the line. Let me just pause and facilitate this call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Hello, good morning.
Morning, Senator Morgan.
Yeah, morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Senator Morgan, if a person collect a salary for 3 years without not coming to the parliament, he claims to say he's sick, but at a demonstration he can't turn up there.
I think when I saw it on Monday, you know what came to my mind, Carl?
Yes,
that
Senator Morgan.
The PNP's mission often brings out the worst in people.
Yes.
You saw it with Shane Alexis. You're now seeing it with Dr. Alfred Dawes.
Yeah.
You saw it with the man who was in the Senate describing himself as a breast man.
Yeah.
That is what Dr. Andre Horton is known for, where his stint as a legislator in this country is concerned. Never have nothing sensible to say. What I remember him for is his comment where he said he is a breast man.
A breast man.
Yeah. And this is a man who was appearing on programs prior to, sounding fairly erudite, sounding fairly sober. But as soon as he has gotten entangled with and mixed up in a, you know what? It's the same thing happened with Crystal Tomlinson. She's salvaging herself, I suspect. Yeah? But we would have known her prior to her stint in the politics.
Right.
And we were able to juxtapose her pre-politics with her post-politics dispensation.
And Senator Morgan.
And it's the same thing happening with Dr. Phillips.
Right. Right where them was. Monday. You remember that corruption that went on concerning that fencing of that place?
I remember the alleged corruption vis-a-vis the contract.
And then gone right there. Right there, so then gone.
I actually made that point at the press conference on Monday, Carl. I actually made that point. Anyway, thank you for your intervention. You may feel free to call back around about 10:30. I'm going to be finishing my opening observation. Good. Now, just coming back to the invectives and all we see being spewed about Dennis. Madam Producer, that hit song from Gregory Isaacs of old, can you give me a few bars of that, please? Because on a morning like this, it appropriately reminds us of what took place this past Monday in relation to the berating and the beating up on Dennis. Chung, play it from the top, please. Yeah. And support of many right-thinking, law-abiding and well-thinking Jamaicans, people who appreciate process and people who can appreciate that you're not a political appointee in your capacity and incarnation as Chief Technical Director at the FID. There is a colleague of mine elsewhere in media who hit several nails on the head yesterday morning. She's of the Nationwide News Network, and I want my listeners to hear a part of what she has to say in this clip. I gather the clip is loading, has not yet come through, but I wanted listeners to hear this commentator who had some very, very important words to impart. Can it be played from this? Play from this device for me, please. That last thing there. All right, see now we don't have a port. All right, so while we sort that out,
yesterday I watched as one after the other opposition spokespersons and political representatives berated the new FID Chief Technical Director, Dennis Chung. He was again attacked, called by the opposition Senator Peter Bunting a JLP apologist. Donna Scott Motley, this one surprised me, charged that Chung's comment last year on an aspect of the Prime Minister's statutory declarations was a signal that he was auditioning for the FID post. And the former opposition leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, said it was plain and simple that Chung was not qualified to do the job. He was hammered, classed. It felt personal, as none of the speakers held back in attacking Dennis Chung, the person. And what is scary to me is that Chung was unduly attacked. Firstly, this is a man who has over the years offered himself to the service of Lady Jamaica, to the service of this nation. And he has always walked away from each post with his hands clean and his integrity intact. A man too who has worked across the political aisle as well, giving of his time and his expertise. And I just want to pull back on a clip, George, listeners, because last week at the end of that interview with Dennis, I asked him, I mean, what drives you to keep on contributing to Jamaica? And here's what he said.
I tell you something, and this is what Ronnie Waite, someone I know very well and I have a lot of respect for. When Ronnie Waite was on Power 106, Ronnie said something that I'll never forget. Ronnie said, it makes no sense for you to have money and everyone around you is poor, right? And I've never forgotten that, because I believe that it makes no sense being in a country, being a citizen in a country and not contributing in some way to the development of that country. In as small a way as you can, I think it's very important. And a part of my job has come from when I was at university. I remember, and I think that this thing about free education that was introduced in the 70s was actually a very good thing. It gave a lot of people the opportunities that they would not have, and a lot of leaders that we see today have benefited from that. But I remember when I was in my MSc, my master's at the time, it cost me to do the master's $165 Jamaican. Compared actually cost now right? And then you think about that, and how many people, I don't even know, maybe I couldn't have done it if it was the cost today. And therefore, I always say we have to give back. You know, we have to make life better for people in the country, because I benefited from it.
At its core, you can hear it in him, you know. At its core, Dennis believes in the importance of contributing to his country, no matter how small that contribution is, and leaving wherever he was better than he found it. And here he is again, offering himself to the nation, offering himself to Jamaica, offering himself in a capacity that serves Lady Jamaica. Now, to my mind, in an unconvincing way, the PNP and others are trying to make much about his selection. Secondly, on the argument about a response he gave to a question in his capacity as a commentator. Chung, like the rest of us, he's entitled to express his perspectives on any issues asked to opine on. He's a thinking man whose knowledge of certain industries was relied on to help broaden the discourse on a matter. If he had shared the same opinion privately, he would have gotten the job and folks would have perhaps moved right along. Point is, stating it publicly doesn't change anything, because the track record of Dennis Chung, the speaker, has demonstrated that his integrity is tall. It stands tall. And I questioned this morning, have you all ever wondered about all the other public servants who have opinions, perspectives on issues, but you've just never heard it? So if we did, would we all of a sudden be asking for them to be removed as well? That cannot be the standard without more. That cannot be the standard without more. Third point this morning.
We'll pick up with that third point at a later stage in this morning's broadcast, as we're up on the NPR News at 10, and we're going to run to take that and then come back at 10:10 with our interview re the Factories Corporation of Jamaica's Moran Bay Urban Center Development. Stay with us.